Namaste and hi friends, it's Parvati here with Visionary Veda, bringing you your October 2022 Vedic Astrology forecast. In this Vedic Astrology forecast, I will go over the planetary transits and energies at play for these last 2 weeks of October. This is a power-packed 2 weeks. So in this report, in the beginning, I'll just list out the dates, and then I will talk about and touch on what is happening and what you can expect to be feeling around these times. It is going to be a rather intense few weeks, actually a rather intense 3 weeks moving into November and beyond. Why is that? Because on the 25th of October, we are going to have a partial solar eclipse occurring. And then around the 7th, 8th of November, depending on where you are in the world, we will have a total lunar eclipse occurring. These are the first full eclipses occurring with Ketu firmly in Libra and Rahu firmly in Aries. Okay, so this is the natural 1-7 axis of the natural zodiac, and it does show a possibility for a lot of upheaval, but I'm going to go over that in this report. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel, who follow me. Please do share this information with those that you feel it will benefit. This is a Vedic astrology report, so I do take into consideration where the planets actually are according to the sidereal zodiac. For this October, we're going to start with the date of October the 16th. All right, we are going to have Mars moving into the sidereal sign of Gemini. It's just going to get just the very beginning of Gemini before it retrogrades at the end of the month on October 31st. Then the following day on October 17th, we have Libra's transit into the sun's transit into Libra. Now, this is the sun's debilitation Rashi. This is where the sun gets debilitated. It's at its weakest. It's also in a few days following that, in about a week following that, going to be the celebration of Diwali. So I'll get more into that as this report progresses. But for now, just know that the sun transits into the sign of Libra, which is its debilitation sign on the 17th. And then on the 18th, we have Ketu, who is changing. Ketu has been in the sign of Libra, but it's changing its nakshatra, and it's going into the nakshatra of Swati nakshatra. This is the heart of Libra, and it's very important point that this nakshatra is going to be what's at play during this eclipse, and also during the time of Diwali, which it's standard. It always is during the time of Diwali. So that's the 18th. Also on the 18th, Venus moves into its own sign of Libra. Now, this usually helps when the lord of the sign or the ruler of the sign is in the sign. So Venus ruling Libra should help the indications of this eclipse. However, it's going to be under the aspects of not only Rahu aspecting its 7th aspect from Aries, but also Saturn aspecting its 10th aspect onto the sign of Libra. Because Saturn gets exalted in Libra, I don't think it's going to harm it as much as it could if it was another Rashi or another sign. But still, Saturn and Rahu, two malefics, it does put pressure onto the sign of Libra. And especially with this solar eclipse, we can see some things, some disturbances during the next several weeks. Okay, so then on the 22nd, we have a retrograde Saturn stationing direct. So 22nd, 23rd, Saturn is going to station and it's going to stop moving retrograde and it's going to start going direct. Now, this is really big. Usually with Saturn, we can feel its influence of it slowing down to a standstill 5 days before it changes its direction and 5 days after, because it's such a outer planet and a slow moving planet. It takes time for that momentum to stop and then the direction to change. And as you guys know, the planets are not actually moving backwards in the sky. It just seems that way from Earth's vantage point. So this is a very key day. On that same day, we are going to have a Venus conjunct the Sun. Now, this is also a very powerful day because the exact conjunction of any planet with the Sun is known in Hellenistic astrology. It's known as a cazimi, right? And when there's a cazimi, there can be, even though it's very difficult for that planet to be able to show its energies, because it's being glitching, it's being overtaken by the rays of the sun. The cazimi can show a special power of that planet coming forth. So Venus can show a sudden windfall of money. It can show a surprise relationship. It can give something special when it's exactly aligned with the sun. And that will be happening on the 22nd of October at the same time as the Saturn going direct. Then, of course, we have, and that's also the first day of Diwali. It's the day called Dhanteras. Now, it's a very auspicious day in the Vedic calendar. It's also becoming known as Ayurveda Day in the West, because it's the day of veneration of goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and Lord Dhanvantri, who is known to be the patron lord of the science of Ayurveda, which teaches us how to be healthy. So I'm really sorry about this glitching. I might have to stop this video and start over if it doesn't stop soon, because it throws me off my flow. And this is a very important video, so I'd like to make sure that this information is delivered. But I will continue, and those of you who have been following me for some time know that this tends to happen to my computer from time to time. So my apologies, and hopefully it'll stop glitching here in a moment. But anyway, moving on. So Dhanteras is on the 22nd as well, and it is a very important day to do any kind of a Lakshmi Puja or any sort of a homage to Lord Dhanvantri for health and well-being. This is also the day that the students and the musicians honor the goddess Saraswati to thank her for giving us knowledge and inspiration. Okay, so that's the 22nd, 23rd. The 24th is known as Kali Chaudas, and this is a day in India where the goddess Kali is worshipped right before Diwali. And then Diwali we have on the 25th, 24th, 25th, depending on where you are in the world, which is also the same day as this partial solar eclipse. Okay, and then the 26th we have Mercury moving into Libra as well, and then on the 31st we have Mars going retrograde in Gemini. It doesn't stay in Gemini for very long, it moves into back into the sign of Taurus shortly after. So looks like I stopped glitching, thank goodness. So let's continue. I am going to briefly cover some of the energies at play, like on all these dates, okay? The most important is like, well, they're all very important, but the 22nd is very important with Saturn going direct. The sun being in Libra, like I mentioned, is the debility of the sun. So anything that the sun signifies is going to be difficult for those significations to be able to come forth. And so, what I mean by that, you personally might be feeling sort of not so confident in your own self because it also is a signification of the ego. You might not be feeling very powerful. You might be feeling difficulty in relationships and expressing yourself in relationships and being able to be a leader in your groups, in your work, in your organizations. If you do have a leadership role, it can also show the governments of different countries having trouble making decisions. So it's a very difficult position for the sun, right? The sun goes in on the 17th. It's going to be with Venus. Venus's significations are also going to come under some difficulty. So Venus rules the planet Libra, rules the sign Libra. And its significations are obviously relationships because Libra is the sign of diplomacy, of relating to others. This is why sun gets debilitated in this sign. And it's also the sign of the marketplace, that symbol of the scales, right? It denotes commerce and the markets. So, and Venus is also money, material wealth, and comfort. So, with this eclipse and with Venus being combust, when a planet is combust, it has difficulty lending its energies because the sun's energies are so strong, it sort of renders it impotent, right? It cannot do its job. Now, when there's a cazimi, when there's an exact conjunction, which is happening on the 22nd, the same day Saturn is stationed, the cazimi can give us a little gift, but in general, Venus is getting burned up. It's getting purified. In the Vedic system, we call it a purification. It's going from the morning star into the evening star. And when Venus emerges again out of the rays of the sun, it will come out purified. It's also the time of the great myth of oh, it's not Aphrodite. Is it Aphrodite that goes into the underworld, and she's banished to the underworld, and she goes down into the underworld, and she comes out renewed and rejuvenated. I could be wrong. I don't think it's Aphrodite, but I'm forgetting the name of the goddess with the persimmons. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. But and if somebody knows it, maybe you can type it down in the comments. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, it symbolizes Venus, the star Venus, the goddess, going down into the underworld and becoming purified. So in our relationships, we might be seeing ourselves really looking within and seeing how we can heal and purify and clean ourselves from whatever it is that we've been contributing to the breakdown, whether it's been, in a love relationship, friendships, business relationships, and how we can come out and be stronger in them, and also be able to lend our best efforts in healing them and being a better person in them. Okay, so that is a little bit of the significations of Venus. It also can be a time where business and the money markets can go for a toss. It can be a lot of crazy fluctuations in the market. There can be a tumble of the market. There can be talk about changing the way we do business, as well as more restrictions placed on money and the movement of money. Now, this may be temporary, or it may just be the beginnings of a whole new system of business and commerce coming into play. So just be aware of that. The most important thing around this eclipse time, this eclipse is happening in the Nakshatra of Swati, right? And the Lord of Swati is the element of Vayu, which is the wind. The symbolism of Swati is like a young green shoot coming out of the earth, and then the wind, and this green shoot doesn't have strength to stand, but what it does have is the flexibility to be able to bend when the wind is very strong and tumultuous. So be flexible, don't be rigid, don't be afraid, don't make any moves. Ride this period out. Don't react to whatever may be occurring, because the tendency to be jolted or be confused, or just be afraid of what is happening might make you make mistakes. So the best advice I can say during this eclipse is to hold tight. Now, this eclipse is happening on Diwali, which is the great festival of light, and this is when we have the Mahalakshmi, or the goddess of wealth, puja happening, or the worship of the goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. So this is very important. It's a very important day, especially because Venus is getting hammered so hard in this eclipse. And all the significations of the planet Venus are going to be having a toss, or having a difficult time. So it's a really important day during this eclipse to turn back to any kind of a spiritual practice, any kind of a chanting mantras, or doing any kind of pujas, or doing any kind of worship for the goddess, and inviting the goddess to be with us, inviting the goddess to be with you, calling the goddess in. Now, usually on these days of Diwali, from Dhanteras, before Dhanteras, to the 25th, and the day after Diwali as well, it's also known as Govardhan Puja, which is this story about Lord Krishna holding up this mountain with his little finger to shield everybody from this big rain or this storm. So these 5 days of Diwali, it's a best time to purify. In fact, starting now, while the moon is waning, it's the best time to purify. It's a great time to do a cleanse. It's a great time to let go of things that are old in the home, let go of old clothes, do any kind of purification process to ready ourselves for the new. Even though it's a very tumultuous few weeks here at the end of October and in the beginning of November, any kind of grounding practices, purification practices, and spiritual sadhanas, or spiritual practices, will really help a lot to be able to flow through these waves that are about to hit. Now, everybody's not going to be, it's not going to affect everybody in the same way, because it depends on where the sign of Libra is in your chart. Now, I know in my last video, and I'm so sorry for all this glitching, But bear with me. I know in this last video that I did for the full moon, I did mention that I was not doing readings, and that's because I have a lot going on as well in my personal life with many things happening. But people have reached out, and I know that during eclipse season things get a little bit confusing and people need extra support. So I will try to accommodate a few readings if possible. All right. Please do reach out. I will try to schedule you. It might take me some time, but I will do my best to get you on the calendar. I'm going to go ahead and keep readings open from now until after the eclipse. So I'm going to try and keep readings available for those of you who really need it and would like some clarification or some clarity until probably the middle of November. But please bear with me because there's a lot happening on all levels. So yay, we stopped glitching. All right, so I think that is good for now. It's a little overview for the last few weeks of October. I will make a more detailed report about the partial solar eclipse. But for now, also remember it is a partial eclipse, it's not a total solar eclipse. It is going over Russia and the Ukraine, and it's going to be visible in Europe as well. So it can escalate things in that department. In the next 2 weeks following, we will have a lunar eclipse in the sidereal sign of Aries with a retrograde Mars. Okay, so Mars is retrograding on the 31st. It's going to go back into Taurus, which is ruled again by Venus. You know, there's a 3-day stationary period as well. Mars is going to be in the sign of Taurus until March. So Mars is going to be in Venus's sign for a while. And Mars is the Lord of Aries as well. So we're looking at, you know, some aggressive qualities coming, and especially in the mind, right? Because it's a lunar eclipse, which rules the mind. So the solar eclipse, I think, is going to be a little bit more gentle. It may aggravate people's confidence, like I said in the beginning of the video. It may throw off governments and leaders because that's what sun signifies as well, and the sun will be partially eclipsed, so they may not be making the best decisions. It may throw off authority figures, people in power, and our own sense of power as well might be a bit rattled. So that is something to be aware of. Don't take it too seriously or too much to heart or too personally. Write it out because it will change. You know, during the eclipse, it's not recommended to make any new moves. For now, it's just good to know that these energies are coming. It's good to brace ourselves, not to be afraid. Astrology is meant to empower us, not to make us fearful. You know, really just go into the cleansing mode, go into the internal mode, and bring out your inner light. Rely on your inner guidance. And the best way to rely on the inner guidance is by cultivating a relationship with your higher self or with the divine that resides in all of us. So I hope this was helpful. My apologies for the glitches. I still can't remember the name of the goddess that was sent down to the netherworlds. Persephone. There we go. The story of Persephone, not Aphrodite, who it was Zeus's daughter as well, who was sent down to the underworld to emerge renewed, which is happening with our dear Venus, our planet Venus. But be on the lookout on the 22nd for something special, that Kazemi to appear. somehow in your lives. And take good care of yourselves during this time. The sun is getting lower. We are going into, at least in the northern hemisphere, we're going into the winter months. It's a more inward time. And keep enjoying the life, all right? Because things go up and down, and this is the ebb and flow of the energies. So I wish you all the best. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully it won't glitch. All right. Enjoy the lives, my friend. Enjoy the life, my friends. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.